Hey guys, what's going on? My name is JD, for those of y'all who don't know, and this right here is the Christian Experience. Um, Season 1, syndication. We thank you guys for supporting everybody who knows about it, and all of y'all who this is new to, we hope that you enjoy it, man. Our first episode today is going to be the N word. It was a controversial show that we had, and it was broken down into a few parts. So this is part one of the N word. So we hope you guys enjoy it, man. And we're gonna have some more episodes for you guys. More seasons are coming soon. We got plenty of episodes for you. This is a podcast that we did on Blog Talk Radio, and now we are going to be syndicating the show. So we hope that you guys love it, man. Tell a friend, all right? And if you want to support, we're gonna let y'all know where to support. You can see it in the description. Because this basically runs on you guys' support and gifts, man. So we definitely appreciate it, and we thank God for you guys. All right, man. So hope you guys enjoy it, man. And if you already heard this episode or you're familiar with it, man, we hope you enjoy it again. All right, peace. I go by the name of JD. Shouting out for my man JS Dunk, who's not here right now. And this is how we do it, man. Welcome to the Christian Experience.
So, everybody's basically responding to words. And also, this is a mature conversation, so some people may get offended. There may be some offensive words used, such as the N word or AKA the word nigga. So, nigga or nigger, however you want to pronounce it, and some other words that may be offensive that are used with racial slurs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, so we apologize in advance.
yeah, exactly. And if you feel offended, it's an easy way. All you got to do is just hang up. So, this N word, man.
Get right
always
into
controversy, always controversy.
Definitely.
What do you feel about it, man? Like, what's your take on it? First thoughts when you hear it.
First thoughts, you know what? It almost depends on my environment when I hear it.
Okay.
If I'm, if I'm out in public or I'm at work or something and I hear it, whether it's whether it's coming through on the radio or somebody says it, then I'm immediately offended by it.
Okay.
But if I'm just kicking it with the homies and I hear it, then I'm not offended. It's it kind of just goes right over my head.
Okay. Okay. Do you use the word?
I will be found to use the word occasionally. I rarely use it, and not even consciously. I just sometimes it just fits in it just fits in what I'm saying.
Right.
It's just like please.
That point across.
But all in all, I definitely see the views on people that doesn't think the word should be used, because and I think it's almost my opinion is, not to get too far into this right away, but my opinion is, I think that that generation gap, if you're certainly if you're 50 and above,
right,
it can be an offensive word easily, depending on where you were brought up. You brought up, south of wherever, south of the border. It's an offensive word. I don't care if you're using it as a term of endearment or whatever. It's offensive, and I wholeheartedly can see that. And just because of that, I back down off of the word in my vocabulary.
Now I can see, like, I understand that argument too, and I understand how people can be offended, especially our older generation, who's gone through, all of that and stuff, and I feel like they have the right to be, to feel that way, and out of respect, what I'm saying, I try not to say it around them, because I use it. It's just something in our generation that has just become, like people say, a term of endearment or greeting or whatever, however it's used. I was having a conversation with one of my boys the other day, and he was saying he doesn't use it anymore, whatever. He gets offended, and he was kind of like defending a point that it shouldn't be used. And, I was kind of arguing the opposite point. And he was saying, how, it's kind of like you're degrading yourself when you use it, or, what I'm saying, as a black person or whatever. And I kind of felt like my personal opinion is that I think that's kind of, and I was telling him, like, that's kind of an extreme view. Like, to me, I feel like, there was a whole lot of people who were on this whole tip about, they went through the whole ceremony of putting it in a coffin and, burying the word, and it shouldn't be used in the black community or any community or whatever the case is. And, and this is has become part of like a civil rights movement kind of thing, and there was a show, I know Dr. Phil had a show about it, and, Reverend Al Sharpton was up there, he was talking about how, the word shouldn't be used and this and that. And my thing is, it was some parts of his argument that I agree with, but other parts, I was saying the part about nobody should use the word, in the community and this and that. And I'm saying to myself, like, you're putting all of this effort into burying the word, let's say nobody uses the word anymore. You know what I'm saying? We agree. Okay, fine. We're not going to use the word anymore. And all of the younger generation agrees and nobody uses it. What's really going to change? Like, the thing that you really want to change is not in the word itself. I think that people put too much, and granted, again, I'm not downplaying the older generation who actually had that word used in a bad way, in a derogatory way towards them. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what they knew the word was. That's what the word was to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But language is language. And, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't, and my thing is, I feel like words only have power, the power that you give to them. Some people don't agree with that, but that's my stance on it. It's like words only have the power you give to them. So if you don't put so much emphasis on it, especially now, of course there's going to be people that use the word in that way, but it's like if somebody calls me, for example, if somebody calls me a nigga in the street and they mean it derogatory and it doesn't offend me, and I don't take it derogatory, at a certain point, they're going to have to find something else to use. Like, it's not, whatever they say is not going to affect me in that way. And I know that's harder to say to somebody who's lived through segregation. I've never lived through segregation, so it's a little easier for me to do that. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that fact. But at the same time, I'm not dealing with the emotion behind the word. I'm dealing with the fact of it, the fact of the word. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Again, anybody who has an opinion on that, on the N-word, please let us know how you feel about it. 347-637-2419.
Sir, and now, see, my thought is, that's okay. That's that word. We've the black community or hip hop or whatever has embraced that word and managed to flip it into like I said, a term of endearment. But then why not? If somebody came to you and said, hey, Coon, Tom, or Savage, pick a many, Mammy, Sambo, Jigaboo, I can keep going. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All these are the those
slang,
those exactly. And the N-word just it stands as a verbal picture of negative stereotypes amongst blacks and and I'm just trying and it's for me it's all about that that evolution in our people it's not that mentality of I'm just born raised in the ghetto and that's all I know and there's no getting a 9 to 5 because I live in this neighborhood or whatever what I'm saying. You got to take your mind a little higher and do that you have to change your thought pattern and
exactly.
And along with changing your thought pattern you change your vocabulary.
Yeah, and that I agree with, which is something that my friend I was talking to that he brought up. He was saying that I used to use it or whatever, and he said now that I'm older you grow out. Or he was really talking about like the rappers who use it, and they he was saying making a point to say like it's kind of like they're telling the kids that it's okay.
It's okay, exactly. Yeah,
you know what
that's
I'm saying? Now, my thing is, all of the people that were screaming, you know, you know what the word means, and the word comes from, and all these people, even on the Dr. Phil show I was watching, and they were saying how all of these people have, they have all of these negative things to say about how where the word came from and all of the negativity behind the word and all this stuff. And what I'm saying is, okay, what I don't get is, okay, nobody bothered to do research. Nobody bothered to figure out where the word really came from, what word it came from, whatever. Right?
Yeah,
it's like everybody's minds are already set and programmed to the fact that this word, like most people believe that some slave owners in America made this word up and used it in slavery in America. Like that's where it came from. And that's not where the word came from. The word wasn't even, the word came from, the original form of the word, obviously, it comes from, Niger or Negro, which means black, right?
Yeah.
And it just, throughout different languages, French, Spanish, what I'm saying, English, all of these words have different pronunciations of the word, right?
Yeah.
And the word basically just meant, darker skinned or black, what I'm saying, darker skinned people, like the word was actually used towards, Chinamen at one time, Asians at one point, as well as Africans or whatever, what I'm saying. It was just to distinguish the type of person. So that's the where the words originated from. And then as time went on, obviously the slave trade was going on, and there was a whole lot of slave trades going on, not just black slaves, but that's the type of slaves that were coming to America. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what we know. That's American history is what we know. So when they came here, and as they were being traded, even before they came here, they would, that's what they called them to distinguish the type of slaves. You understand what I'm saying? Because they were Asian slaves, they were Irish slaves. You know what I'm saying? People that were getting kidnapped and being sold into slavery. So if you have a ship full of slaves coming from Africa, that's where that word came from. So you could distinguish, okay, these are the the nigger slaves coming from whatever. So what slaves, how can you can distinguish it. Now, how it became derogatory, from what what I can see is how is the fact that once these slaves got here in America, a slave is already considered less than a person, less than a man. You know what I'm saying? So the word itself wasn't derogatory. They already thought of, if you were a slave, you were already thought of as being less than.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So if whatever word they would have used to describe you, you know what I'm saying, it would have meant, it would have seemed derogatory. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like if you're not a slave, it's almost like somebody calling you a bum. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if the only reason why you feel offended for somebody calling you a bum is because you're not poor. You know what I'm saying? You're not homeless or whatever the case is. So that seems derogatory to you because that's not what you are. And so that's what it seemed. They equated black people in America with slaves. So if somebody called you that, of course, it seemed derogatory because you're not a slave, or all the black people were considered less than something. And that was wrong in itself. But nobody was able to get past, that part of it. Nobody ever broke it down to me that way, at least. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like when you hear the word, the furthest you go back to what the word means is from slavery. From, being slavery in America or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, to me, I feel like, if the word didn't start out as being derogatory, you know what I'm saying, then what's wrong with the word not being derogatory now? That's what I'm saying. Like, my argument is, and again, I can understand how certain people cannot accept the word, but that's a personal thing between each individual. So for you to tell a whole community of people not to use this word anymore, to me, I feel is really not bettering the community, to be honest.
So what if you have a community and you take a survey in this community on this word and whether or not they're offended by it, and 70% of this community is offended by that word, which, still leaves you 30% that say, hey, there's no problem with this word. So, what do you cease, using that word?
What I would do is,
or you just, because you have 30%, you go along with using that word.
I would personally feel, I personally feel that whoever is, I would feel like there's some education to be done. Because I feel like if a person uses that word, if a person is offended by something, a lot of times they're offended because of some sort of ignorance to what it is that they're offended by. Understand what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, matter of fact, I'll give you a biblical example, right?
Okay.
How, when Jesus and his disciples, they were walking, through the cornfields, and his disciples was hungry, so they started picking corn and eating it. You know what I'm saying? And the religious church people at the time came up and they were talking to Jesus, trying to say, hey, y'all supposed to be, religious. You up here saying all this stuff. Like, how come your disciples, they eat without doing a ritual, washing their hands and stuff like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, they were offended by this. Because they didn't understand, which Jesus explained to them. It's not what goes in you that defiles you. It's what comes out of your heart. It's what's in your heart and comes out of your mouth that defiles you. So anybody who heard what he said and understood what he said was no longer offended at that. Understand what I'm saying? But what we do as the church now, what we do is we are so worried about the appearance of something because we don't want anybody to have that chance to come to us and say, oh, what you're doing is not right. So instead of us explaining to them why it is okay, we'd rather tell everybody just don't do it so they don't have nothing to say. And that's how I feel about this. It's like for you to tell a whole community, no, just don't use the word because certain people don't understand and certain people can't distinguish and certain people this. Okay, then you're making it easy on yourself and on your movement by just telling everybody not to do anything because it appears, to everybody who's, let's say, everybody who's not black. You know what I'm saying? It appears to them that the black community is together. But the only thing we're together on is not saying a word. You're not changing anything because any racist person who says that word, they don't say it in public anyway. They say it behind closed doors. The people who actually say it, and we say the rednecks or whatever, which I think that's kind of derogatory too.
Yeah, I don't use that either.
You know what I'm saying? But like, those are like the Klans members who are outgoing, who say that kind of stuff out loud. They don't even live nowhere around us anyway. You know what I'm saying? At least us here. You know what I mean? So we don't have to deal with that regardless. What we have to deal with is those people who have it in their hearts, who don't say it to you, to your face, but then they go home and they call you that. Behind closed doors, they call you that.
Is it okay for them? Is it okay for those people to call you that?
No, it's not okay. It's really not okay if they mean.
Is it okay for you to call your boy that in front of that person that you don't want you to call him?
This is my dilemma because I feel like certain places, certain people, certain places that you go, it's not appropriate for everywhere, period. And part of the reason it's not appropriate is because I know it offends certain people. Like, I wouldn't say that around somebody who like I said, who lived through segregation and I know they're offended by that word. I wouldn't say it around them because I know it offends them. And it's my right as a child of God not to offend somebody if I know that it does.
And that's where I was going to go with that.
Right.
And so therefore, if that's the case, then you're only going to use it around somebody and you're sure that nobody within earshot has lived through segregation. So you're only going to use it in the privacy of your own home then, given that theory.
I've learned that through maturity, though, because I used to use it on the bus or wherever I was at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now I'm more aware of it. But all I'm saying is that if somebody, even if I know somebody's offended by something, here's where I go the extra mile, though. Because if I know somebody's offended by something, I'll have a conversation with them, which is why we're having this show. I have a conversation with that person to find out what it is they're offended by. And then maybe we can come to some sort of conclusion and they won't be offended by the word anymore. They may still not use the word,
Yeah. Now, you know what? That's, that logically thinking, I understand that. But you can't have a conversation with everybody.
No, you can't.
So which means, if you're on the bus, and you use that word, you can't have a conversation with every single person on that bus and get them to, see your viewpoint or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. And that you're right. And which is why.
So if it's a word that I can't, just arbitrarily blurt out, then why even use it in the first place?
Because why not? If that's the case, then you wouldn't use any words. Like I said, like again, I was having a conversation with my boy again, and I said to him, I said, okay, so if you're gonna abolish that word, then that means, we were on like the music and stuff, and I said, if you're gonna abolish that word, right, then that means you have to abolish all the words. Like, you have to abolish hoe, you have to abolish, the B word, you have to abolish all of these words. You know what I'm saying?
You're veering from apples and apples, because we're talking about a word that has been used to to oppress a lot of the black Americans.
But the word hoe or whore has been around to oppress women long before. You know what I'm saying? The word nigga was even made up.
True. Do you think that word is okay?
Yeah, I think it's okay if it's being directed to where it needs to be directed. Understand what I'm saying? Like for example, if somebody calls a prostitute a whore and she gets mad, she's very ignorant and she has no right to be upset.
It's true.
Because that's what.
True.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what do you expect? Like, why am I going to be? You know what I mean? It's almost like we're trying to become too politically correct. In times where we need to be educated, instead of trying to appear educated or appear like we're helping the problem. The problem is that they want, like, a lot of these leaders, they want the black community to do things that makes it look like they cleaned up the streets, when really they didn't clean anything. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with church. They make you, some churches have all these strict rules. Oh, you can't wear pants, and women can't wear pants, and you can't do this and you can't do that.
Yeah.
So when somebody walks in the church, it looks like, oh, everything's fine. Meanwhile, everybody's hearts are dirty as I don't know what.
True.
And they on their way to hell. And the only reason why they can't get fixed is because nobody addresses the problem. Everybody sees the elephant in the room, and nobody wants to point it out. Because you know why? Once you point it out, you get a whole bunch of other dirty muck and gook that you never knew was there. And that's why people don't want to address that word. They rather just forget it like it never existed. And they never get healed. And it's a lot of black people, I'm going to say this, it's a lot of black people walking around right now with stuff in their hearts, and they're just as racist as the white people that they were offended by.
Yes.
And they feel like it's justified because it happened to them first. And that's not right. God does not, we're talking about God here, right? We're talking about, we ain't just talking politics. We're talking about being right with God, right? So if you're trying to be right with God, then you're going to have to clean your heart out. I don't care what the reason is or where it came from or what. You know what I'm saying? And if you're offended by something, and the Bible says that we should not be easily offended. Love is not easily offended.
You know what? It does. And on the flip side, we shouldn't, if we know that we're doing something or saying something to offend our brother or sister, then we should cease.
And you're right. You're right about that.
So, so if we know that the majority, if we know that 70% in that community has a problem with it, then just off Christianity alone, we should no longer use it.
See, that I disagree. I feel like we shouldn't use it around the people that we know are offended, but we should also, while we're not using it, I feel like we shouldn't use it yet till we educate those people and they're not offended anymore. We shouldn't just let those people walk around being offended all the time. And what if we
educate them and they still remain offended? 347-637-2419. Yo, I only got a couple minutes left to do so. I know somebody got some words on this. I'm sorry.
Everybody seems like everybody's soaking it up right now. Don't worry though. We're going to continue this show. We're continuing this show next week. So anybody, I want y'all to, I really want people to soak this up. Y'all ain't even got to say nothing right now. I want y'all to soak this up. I want y'all to talk about this. Go to work. Don't get fired or smacked by nobody. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But, you know, go to work, go to school, wherever you go, and talk to somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? Get some opinions. You know, figure out your opinions. And then I want y'all to call us.
Discussion about it.
Yeah, next week I want y'all to call us and let us know what you feel, man, because for real, like, this, to me, is a serious issue, and they want to lead a crusade about cutting this word out, you know what I'm saying, of language, which I feel is, you know, to me, I feel like it's efforts that could be put towards educating people in a certain way.
That, you know what, and I think, you know, that, and I'm with you on that. I think, you know, that we should put more effort toward educating people on the origins of stuff like this, instead of, you know, trying to bury it and just forgetting that it existed, because we can't forget that it exists. So, but, you know, like you said, you know, just look, don't.
Hey, thank you guys for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and, you know, if you were blessed by what you saw and heard, and you want to be a blessing, all you got to do is send us anything. Every donation and every gift that you send is appreciated. So send it to Cash App Christian Experience. That's hashtag Christian Experience, all right? And we'll see you next episode. Peace. That's it. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm playing. All right. I can use that.